True Life and Music History, the Ants Human Stars podcast, with your hosts, Caleb and Digo. Are you ready? Steady. Go. Imagine you went to your music studies class, music homeroom, or whatever you called it in school. And then instead of that music teacher you had that was probably good or probably terrible, there was a nice looking black man just sitting there. And maybe he taught you an instrument, but actually he mostly talked about old tracks from the 90s and the 80s that he loved, and he'd go over them, and that's all that happened in class. Like, you just talk about old artists that he loves, and then that's it. Welcome to Kalo Hacker and Music History, everybody. This is the music class you wish you had in grade school, not that stupid one where they made you learn the flute.
Exactly. I loved that. That was the greatest intro of all time on this podcast for me. Thank you. I love that. Gather around, students. Okay. This is gonna be a fun one. This is different. So I want to try something different. Usually I'm doing songs from the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. And introducing and talking about these very big songs that we all have grown up knowing, our parents have grown up singing. I wanted to pivot from that for a little bit and do a couple of episodes on some new artists, so new music that's out now, and artists that are well known but not, they're not the Janet Jackson and Rolling Stones of the world. I wanted to cover them and talk about some of their songs. And these are songs and artists and albums that I love. I just thought it'd be cool to switch it up, to give you guys some more current music and introduce you guys to, hopefully some new artists and maybe some music that you love. Or that you will love in the future. So today, we're talking about an artist. She is definitely one of my all-time favorites, right now. And I'm sure for always, like, she will be. She's just that artist there's some artists that you just, I don't know if you ever felt like this, but there's certain artists, like, I don't worry about, I hope this new album's good. I'm just like, nah, like, I trust them. I'm gonna like the music, and even if I don't love it, like, it's still not gonna be bad. So like, John Mayer is like that for me. Like, I just know, like, he did have a couple albums a few years back that I was like, oh, these are not good. Hurry up. But they weren't bad either. They weren't the worst, but they just weren't my favorites. But John Mayer, Emily Sandé, these artists that I'm like, if they have new music, I'm like, I'm gonna like it, whatever. So anyways, she's one of these. Sorry, I am really talking. But
No. I was trying to think of an answer for that, and I do remember as a little kid asking my dad, why did the Beatles keep coming up with new great tracks all the time? Aww. What did it feel like knowing the Beatles, and then every time they made music, it was like amazing? Okay. Because what I didn't understand, and like sometimes some artists made music, their new album was shit. And some artists not. Some artists were amazing. Every time anything they came out with was like always really good. And anyways, the first time I realized that was anything was like the Beatles as a little kid, and being like, I didn't get why all these tracks are good. Because then the other music artists are really, but not all their stuff is good. The Beatles are all like these amazing. There's like 50 songs that are all good. Anyway, I just want to say that's the first time I ever thought about an artist being so good that anything they're gonna make is gonna come out
be good.
more contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Other than the big ones that we all know, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say I feel safe for a contemporary artist.
Gotcha. Brandy's another one for me. I'm
Not right
always
now.
just like, I generally will like it. And again, when I say this does not mean Radiohead is another one for me. This does not mean that every album
But
that
those
they
aren't contemporary artists. If you're asking for like right now,
Oh, well, no. When I say right
because
now,
like
I mean like
because if it's
2000s, 2000s, 90s artists, 2000s artists on that. So yes, that's what I'm considering contemporary.
okay, because I have recalibrated.
Yeah,
Recalibrated. I understand that my music that I grew up with is history. You know, like I understand that is like when you thought of the '60s when you were a little kid. That is,
I know
the
that's our
80s
music
now
yes. And then,
to people. You know what I'm saying? That is the beyond. That's back in the day.
Yeah.
And then, the last wave of music was like the 2000s. That's like but now the contemporary music, I would be like the last 5 years, right? Which would be like, I don't know, Billie Eilish, right? Like that's the contemporary leader of all this stuff. And
I listen to no music.
even Beyonce is on like I would say anything beyond Beyonce's first rise to stardom as Beyonce is no longer contemporary.
well, that's the thing.
Beyonce's time frame is contemporary. That's what I would say.
So all these artists are still, but I am naming music artists that are currently making music. So like John Mayer just put out a new album a year ago or 2 years ago, and so did Brandy
but I would trust
Radiohead,
John Mayer, because he has a record.
I gotcha.
That has spanned decades. And of course, I would trust that one. But a new artist, do I have that trust right now? I don't know. And you say that you have this trust for
yes,
Alessia Cara, the Canadian singer-songwriter, just off of 1 or 2 albums.
No,
yeah, look at me with this segue.
Exactly. I was like, okay, I'll do it for me. Yes, that's how I feel about it. So yeah, so based off your guidelines, Alessia would be a contemporary artist because she popped on the scene for the first time in 2015. So
like we don't know her enough. We don't have a track record of this person.
She only has 3 albums, and a couple EPs.
But back to 2015 though.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2015.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean though. Like she has enough of a track record that I'm like, okay, I'm with you because I can see that like we're 3 albums in and I'm liking every single one. You don't know that with somebody or off their first album. Like I don't know if the next album is going to be good. But once you're like 3 albums in, it's like, okay, I can trust this. Anyways, so talk about Alessia Cara, and her song "You Let Me Down." I sent this song to Digo before I but when we were getting ready today, and so he heard it for the first time. So I'll ask him his thoughts at the end of this. So all right, let's dive in. So Alessia Cara burst onto the scene in 2015 with her debut single "Here." Now, have you ever heard that song? I ask myself, what am I doing here? Oh, here. Okay. All right. Well,
maybe
you might have heard it.
Wanted to sound familiar. It wanted to, but maybe, I don't know. I would have to listen to it.
Well, it scored her first top 5 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. And with the success of the albums and subsequent singles, she showed that she was a young artist with a lot of promise. And I think she's more than lived up to that promise. She won the Grammy Award for Best New Artist in 2018 and followed her debut album with the successful and stellar sophomore album and EP. Her latest album, In the Meantime, was released in 2021, and I think it's her best work yet. Um, and on that album is this gem that we're going to talk about today. It served as her fourth and final single for this project. And again, the song is entitled "You Let Me Down." So, quick, a friend of mine, shout out to Gloria, she actually introduced me to Alessia Cara, and so who knows if I'm sure I would have stumbled upon her at some point, but I never forget we were at like a get together with friends, and she was like, "Oh, check out this song," and it was this her song here, and anyways, that was the beginning of my love for Alessia Cara.
Yeah.
And also as Diego mentioned, she hails from Canada. Wanted to make sure I added that too. So to be completely transparent, I have not only cried to this song, but I have sang it happily at the top of my lungs. It was the first song on the album that when I gave it that first listen, it stood out to me the most. And it is my favorite song by Alessia. And fun fact, she said that this is her favorite song from this album. So, um, when giving some background to the song and explaining a little bit, she says, I think acceptance is a huge theme on this album, and Let Me Down is one of those songs where I'm just kind of accepting the reality of a certain relationship that was no longer a relationship. And I think I was holding on to certain threads of that or frayed ends of that relationship for a long time. And this song was just the realization that this person ultimately let me down and I let them down. And that on one end, it's okay, and on the other end, I mean, it sucks, but it just is what it is. And there's a sense of freedom in that realization, I think. Well, I agree with that, and also I think the lyrics in this song are just very poignant. So she opens with the lines, "You evergreen, the fire in my past, can't run free if I keep looking back. It's a lost cause, it's a bad bet, it's a storm, but gotta face it." So that second line, in some ways, I think it's just the foundation of the song and the theme. That line that says, "Can't run free if I keep looking back." So along with acceptance, there's an understanding that I can't keep looking back and hoping for a different outcome. When you're trying to move on from a relationship or situation that hasn't um, ended favorably, we'll say. But yeah, there's an understanding that, hey, what's done is done, and looking back isn't doing anything but kind of holding you um, and keeping you from recognizing and being fully present for all the great things that are coming. But it's not just the lyrics that I love. I think it's the music that accompanies them that really just does it as a whole for me. Because I firmly believe it doesn't matter how good the lyrics are, if the music doesn't help amplify that, then it's just gonna be lost. So, again, the music just, I think it captures and it highlights the heart and the feeling of the words. It starts out with the steady bass, or there might be electric guitar. I can't exactly tell. And there's ambient sounds in the background. Alessia's vocals gently glide over it, adding color to the story that's unfolding. At the 32-second mark, that's when the chorus comes in, along with some backing violin strings. And I think that just perfectly gears up the listener to just being fully immersed in, again, the story that Alessia is walking us all through. And explaining it further, she says, I don't really know a ton about relationships, but I would say you can't, no matter how much you try, you can't love someone into loving you back the right way. And no amount of love and no amount of things that you can give to somebody can make them give the same back to you. You can't expect you from someone else. That's just not the way it works. So I think what I love so much about this song and just Alessia Cara in general is the sincerity. Because anyone who's ever been hurt by someone you love knows that it brings out such big and strong emotions, but also such mixed emotions. And there's, of course, the pain, but there's also empathy and grace that are given to the individual who hurt you because of the love you had for them. And I think this song does a beautiful job of expressing that. So one of my favorite lines if not my favorite line in the song, comes near the end. At the 2:44 mark, she sings, uh, "Though our moments kept us waiting, I will keep it sacred, like it's golden. Wish you nothing but an exhale, and I'm hoping you hear when I say." And then she goes into the chorus, um, "I love you, but you let me down." Um, that that line, "Wish you nothing but an exhale." I think that's the space we all aim for in a situation like this, when you can finally take a deep breath. There are no more tears left to fall, and you can genuinely say you wish nothing but the best for this other person who let you down and may have hurt you. Uh, Wishing them an exhale. Um, Alessia goes on to say, "This is just that realization of that. I tried, you let me down. I probably let you down too, but I'll just keep our relationship sacred and what we had sacred." Um, this song is definitely sacred to me. I think it's beautiful, and beautifully composed, with so much feeling. Um, and yeah, I just thought it was so well done. Um, and yeah, I just think there's so many layers to it. Um, so yeah, and the video is pretty cool as well. I definitely had to start floating a little bit to like, and then I watched it and it hit me like, oh, this is what I think she's saying in the video. Because it's kind of like her, and there's these three ghosts that are, and it's just three guys, and like the classic like white
Yeah,
sheets
no,
with
I was
the
gonna say
eyes.
like,
And
don't think Ghostbusters.
yeah, no,
Think
not yeah.
I ain't got a Halloween costume,
Exactly.
and I got this bed sheet.
Exactly. Yes. Very
Classic.
classic.
Just classic.
But in the video, they're like following her around, and then she's like hanging out with one of them, but that one of them is not giving her anything back. They're sitting out to dinner, and it's just sitting there. They're watching movies, just sitting there. And as the video progresses, like Alessia is getting frustrated with them, with this ghost. And I think it's open for interpretation, because I haven't been able to find a video where she's.
I mean, for me, it was
Talk-
a literal representation of like she's trying to say all this stuff, but at the same time, I need to move on. But that's the struggle, and the ghost represents this memory that she's carrying around everywhere she's going, and she kind of hangs out with this trauma that she's dealing with that follows her around like a ghost is what I see. And then in the end of the video, she is by herself. So it sort of feels like
You watched the video?
that's the girl. Do you think I didn't do my homework?
Ooh, okay. I'm like, wait, he sounded like he really watched the video. He's not just listening to my description. Okay. Keep going. Yeah. No, I agree. That's, yeah.
She's by herself at the end, and that means she, quote unquote, vanquished the ghost.
Well, you know what?
her
She's actually, if you look,
significant other.
well, actually, if you look closely, the ghosts are behind her, just very far back, but they're still there. And so I
do see them.
Yeah, so
But
I kind of
it's
looked
sort of
at
like
that as
they're
like,
healthy, gone,
well, not
but
even
they're always there. But now
exactly,
they're healthy,
not even gone.
distance.
I looked at it as not even gone, but that they're always there. Like that memory that you have of that time, it's always going to be there. But yeah, you don't need to hang out with it. You don't need to carry it with you everywhere you go. It's like, no, just let it be back there, and then you keep going forward. Yeah. That's cool that you got it so quickly, because I did not.
As a member of a person of this, as a member of this club of people with exes, and like this is a perfect analogy. I mean, obviously it's simple, but I mean it's exactly what it is. And then every once in a while, one of those like ghosts in the past. You bring them
Exactly.
to have dinner with
Yeah,
you, and you
yeah.
watch TV together, and you're like, I'm doing all this stuff randomly because you're like, oh, that memory just fired in, and then
Yeah.
it leaves obviously back to where it was comfortably in the background. But they do visit,
They do.
hang
They do.
out. The first thought.
Oh yes, yeah. What did you think of the song?
The first thought of that one, she could do a James Bond theme. First thought, I'm like, she could do a James Bond theme. Of course she can.
I could see that.
It has this.
Sure. There's soul. There's like feeling in her voice.
Yeah,
that
I
what
guess
you're
it's
saying?
soul. I think it's soul. That's the word I guess I'm looking for that I can't describe. It's soul. Thanks for listening to the Ants Human Stars podcast with Caleb and Digo. Stay connected and get updates about new episodes by visiting our website, antshumanstars.com, and by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a positive rating and review, and share about us with your community on social media. Thanks, y'all. We really appreciate it.